Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm also watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time, but for the very first time, I am stopping to take a look at what Stargate is trying to teach us. Those lessons that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, or just tell us how we can be better human beings to one another.
All right, Brent, last week you said that this week we're going to be watching In the Line of Duty. Duty. I hope this isn't an episode with a lot of duty. I mean, I've got a kid, but I can't handle that much. I thought this was going to be a pretty dark episode. My prediction is that SG-1 and SG-2 are going to be involved somehow, and basically O'Neill is going to have to take out Ferretti in the line of duty. So I got to find out if I'm right. Tell me about this episode, and then let's dive in.
All right, second episode, Season 2, In the Line of Duty. Original air date, July 3rd, 1998. I have nothing for you at the beginning of this other than to say this is a Martin Wood-directed episode. If you remember, Martin Wood is our little resident Alfred Hitchcock, likes to put little cameos of himself in the episode. We'll keep an eye out. I'll try. You probably can't point him out, so I'll have to try to point him out for you so you can recognize who he is. But with that, Jeff, it is time. Let's go watch this episode. If you're joining us for the first time here the way this works is Jeff and I are going to watch the episode right now. We're going to do it right now. We have not watched it prior to this. We're going to watch it right now. And if you want to see that full unedited video, head over to our Patreon page. You can do that at patreon.com/Babylon5First, or check the show notes for updated links, as that'll probably be coming sometime soon.
If you're listening to the audio version of this on a podcast app, you're about to jump into the future. We're going to skip over the episode, and you are going to get my for the first time reaction, followed by any sci-fi messages that Brent may or may not have found in this episode. So Brent, bring it up. Let's go.
Chevron 7 locked.
It's pandemonium. Goa'uld and Jaffa are blasting the ever-living snot out of some old-school village people on some planet, and it is not going well for them at all. SG-1 is trying to evacuate people through the Stargate, and one is so grateful. They grab Carter by the neck while she's doing mouth-to-mouth and slips her something. Her eyes get all Gouldy glowy for a second, and, then she's back at it. Back at the SGC, the team is trying to make sense of why the Goa'uld were attacking such a primitive planet that really didn't appear to pose any risk. And things are not quite right with Sam. She's just kind of off. At one point, she even calls Teal'c just a Jaffa. During the medical check, Fraser brings up Cassandra, and Sam forgets who she even is for a second. She's going to be at the hospital a little later on where they sent all the evacuees from the planet, so Sam goes to visit her. Sadly, it is not a very warm reunion. Cassandra runs away from her, terrified. Later, she tells Jack that Sam is a Goa'uld. She could tell because of the naquita in her blood. At least that's what Dr. Fraser says. She thinks it popped into Sam when the guy grabbed her head. This is a big deal moment here. They even pause to remind us of it, but you can get a Goa'uld without having a scar. Jack tries to sedate Sam, and she starts Goulding out, demanding they let her through the Stargate. She eventually passes out, and they lock her up. When she wakes up, she says her name is Jolinar of Malkshur, and says that if they let her through the gate, she'll find a new host and send Sam back, because apparently this Jolinar knows how to leave a host without killing them. They go on to say that some Goa'uld oppose the System Lords like their group, the Tok'ra, and they're doing everything they can to break free from their prison. It even tells Daniel that it can help free and bring back Shah-Ray. Ooh, wow. While all this is going on, one of the evacuees wakes up in the hospital and attacks the doctor. It's got one of the hand-wavy things, and oh no, it's a Goa'uld. It's here to kill Jolinar as an Ashrak, or a Goa'uld assassin. It makes its way into the SGC, finds Sam, and hand-wavy things her, and Dr. Fraser goes right to work. The Ashrak tries to escape, but Teal'c two-shot Zach guns him, and then despite all Fraser's efforts, Jolinar dies. It looks like Frasier's able to save Sam, though, even though Sam says that it was Jolinar who sacrificed itself to save her. Sam's body absorbs the dead parasite. Daniel brings Sam some flowers as she recuperates, but she's sad. She's distant, just not okay. Cassandra comes to visit her, though, and well, that brings a smile to her face.
All right, Jeff, we have just finished, like immediately, 10 seconds ago, watching In the Line of Duty. I can't wait to hear what you thought of this episode, Jeff.
This was great. Last week we talked about how, like, we ended the story, right? Apophis is dead, and that whole thing's kind of wrapped up, and so this is kind of a reset. But, like, a lot of times with not a reset, but like the next, we're moving to the next thing, and they acknowledge the whole Apophis thing and move forward.
So we kicked his ass.
Right? Yeah, it's great. But I love this because we got so much lore in this one, and I have questions. But what we got in this, one, we know there are 3 more SG teams. They made a real point. The 3 new SG teams, 10 through 12. We know that Cassandra, or Cassie, or whatever she goes, which, by the way, how cool is that to, like, recur her as like bring her in? This is a really appropriate reason to bring her in. It was really well done. But she's got Naquita in her, some traces of Naquita left in her blood, so she can kind of sense Gould. So Naquita has a property of some kind to help with that. Gould can transfer via French kiss, and so that's changing the games a little bit. But here's the stuff that I got. I think we've heard before that we were called the Tauri. Like we heard that a long time ago, but this is the first time we've heard it since then, where Jolinar called us the Tauri.
And you remember what is special about that? About what the Tauri is?
We're like the where all the humans were pulled from. Like we're the proto-human, basically.
But they were also a myth. In Gould society, they're told to the Jaffa as a myth.
Oh, that's right.
Tauri don't really exist. They just, we didn't really do that. It's a myth.
Not a thing. Also, here's evidence all over the galaxy that we totally did this. Apparently, Gould can leave a host without killing it at great risk to themselves, but it's possible.
But you also already do that, though, Jeff.
Did I?
Sort of. So if you remember Kendra, who we met in the Thor's Hammer episode, where but that was the Gould was like flipped out of her because of the hammer.
Yeah.
The Gould just sort of fried himself. I guess from that, what we all really learned was a human can survive post-Gould, but in this one, a Gould can choose to leave a host.
And we met a group of Gould that might do that. The Tok'ra.
The Tok'ra, yeah.
Tok'ra, like the 5th column in V. They're a small group of Gould that don't believe in the stuff that Gould do and are trying to take him down, which also introduced us to the cast of the Ashrak. It's a super great assassin. So tons of really cool stuff. The story itself was great. And I loved how, like, this is the 2nd episode of the season, the 2nd episode of the 1st season, 3rd, but, 2nd, if you take Children of the Gods as one. Both times we get a member of the SG team getting Goulded up.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah,
but it didn't go well with Kowalski. Obviously, rest in peace, Kowalski.
That's what he gets for not being on the DVD cover, Jeff.
It's a good place to be.
His fault.
Be on a show. It's a good place to be. But so I thought it was cool. This showed not only do we learn a lot more about the Gould, but we also showed that the SG team, they're better at this stuff now. They know more. They can deal with things a lot differently. And frankly, having Tilk on board is a big part of that. Super just judgy look at Jeff talking about how well people are acting or whatever. I loved the affect Amanda Tapping had. Like at first when she got Goulded, she was just, she's just Sam. And then every now and then the eyes glowed and she did the really cool Gould voice. But then when she was full Jolinar, the whole affect on her face, she just looked hard. She looked sharp. The makeup and the lighting helped a lot, but just her face was, great face acting.
It didn't look like Sam Carter.
It was really well done. And her voice, her everything, is really great performance by Tapping in this one. O'Neill had some great moments in this one. One is when he talked to Cassandra, like he came down, sat down on the floor to her level and had a really compassionate conversation. But I had a real problem with a line he dropped in this one. He says, "I will never trust a Gould." Wow. I totally understand being careful around them, whatever, but like, that's like someone in World War II saying, "I will never trust a German," or someone now saying, "I will never trust an Arab," or whatever. Any of them? Really? O'Neill, come on. Not a shining moment for him.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way the episode ended with Joel. So a lot of this was, we learned about the Tok'ra. Joel and I are saying, "I'm a Tok'ra. I'm cool. Like, I'm cool, man. Let's work together." And understandably, they're like, "I don't know if I can trust you." Totally proved it. Gave his life to save Sam. And so in my note here at the very end, all capitals, I'm like, the Tok'ra are real. Like, it's a real thing. And Joel and R was that. So I think that's really cool. My question, big question in this one, and I feel like I have heard this before, but it's not ringing for me. What's a system lord?
Ooh, I'm so glad this is actually the second time we've heard about system lords.
Okay. Was it Hathor? I think we heard the term. I think it was Hathor.
I believe it was Hathor.
And it was just like an offhand thing. I didn't really even think about it that much at the time.
I am not going to say anything more than what within the show, because I'm going to let the show answer that question for you. All right. But here's what you know. The system lords are Gould, a group of Gould that effectively rule Gould society.
Okay, they're the lords.
They're the lords. That Apophis is one of the system lords. Ra was one of the system lords. Not all Gould, not every single Gould is a system lord. Like, actually, it's only very few Gould who are actually system lords.
There's like a hierarchy kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, it's because you got some Gould who are the lords. You got some who are the Ashrak. You got some who, do different things, and you have this really small, tiny group of Tok'ra who are like, yeah, we are actually against what our own people are doing, and we're not those fools over there.
Which, to my point on O'Neill, like, hopefully he has a change of heart in this moment, but also, like, knowing there's kind of a class system or whatever with the Gould, there's got to be a whole bunch of Gould that are just like dudes that show up to work and do their thing. Like, they're in the big motherships, moving the machinery around and, being the lower decks guys and stuff. And I'll bet some of them are just like, Apophis, I swear, if I swear to Ra, if I ever end up face to face with that guy, I'm going to tell him what's what, because he saw blah, blah, blah. These are probably just some dudes too. But I definitely got the impression that System Lord is going to be like, they did a lot of work to establish that in this episode.
They said system lords a lot in this episode.
Yeah, this was a great episode. Really enjoyed it. It was really well done. A lot of great moments. I'm even willing to forgive the fact that Daniel had a Stargate patch out in public.
Right. I'll give you one thing you missed. We learned Dr. Fraser's first name. They said it twice in the episode. Did you miss it?
I did.
Her name is Janet.
Oh, you know what? I should remember that, because literally one time I said, "Hey, Janet, this," and I was like, damn it, Janet. When Rocky Horror Picture on the whole thing.
Damn it, Janet.
I didn't say it in the moment, and I should have. I probably would have remembered. Janet Fraser. There we go. I'm curious to know, Brent, if you found any sci-fi type like messages in the Line of Duty.
Yeah, I thought there were several that just sort of, not several. I thought there was a small smattering that really got thrown out there. A lot of this, Jeff, as you may have guessed, is establishing lore, world building, as a lot of our friends may say.
Potential foreshadowing.
Yes. Which, by the way, I just want to point out, world building episodes don't have to be boring.
Because this was not a boring episode at all.
This was not a boring episode. And this episode certainly expanded the world, the universe, actually, I guess.
The Stargate universe, would you say?
Yes. But I love Teal'c's line. The Gould's greatest weakness is their arrogance. I've seen many strategies revealed and many battles lost because of it. You can exploit that. I think there's definitely something to be said there, but we all heard that about the Gould and we're like, yeah, I can see that. It's just their arrogance. Their arrogance gets them in trouble. Was there a message because of it? Is there a mirror to society? Maybe not. Is it telling us how to be better people? Maybe just don't be arrogant like that.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Before we gate into the rest of this episode, did you know you're missing most of the content from this podcast? Stargate SG-1 for the first time has an active and exciting Patreon that you can join right now by clicking the link in the show notes. Not only will you get access to the full, unedited podcast and reaction videos, you'll also be able to join a growing, vibrant, maybe even an intergalactic community. Subscribers even get access to all of our content from Babylon 5 for the first time. Don't miss out on this content and the amazing people. Just click the link in the show notes. Tilk thinks you should do it right now.
Indeed.
Well, it could be a bit of a mirror to society. I think, and I'm not going to call out anyone in particular, just look at politicians.
They think they're untouchable because of their arrogance. There you go. We can look at, as you say, politicians that are super arrogant, and that arrogance, the way they flaunt their
status,
their
influence,
their impunity. Is that a word?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way they flaunt certain things like that, that just lets them get away with whatever thing they think they can get away with. And then when people call them on it, they're like, oh, wow. And, and then when one of them gets brought up, it's amazing to watch some of the other ones like, oh, well, if you think I did that wrong, look at all this other stuff that I'm going to now tell you about. Oh, my gosh. And I'm probably not even talking about who y'all think I'm talking about.
In Oregon, we literally got a new governor because of that, by the way. Well, you think that's bad? What about this? The whole change of administration. Just like that.
I did find in this a very interesting parallel to the Borg from Star Trek. If I could dive into that. I don't mean to make this all about Star Trek, but as a Star Trek podcaster, I've been down this road before, and so I kind of recognize it here. In Star Trek, there's the Borg. The Borg were this big, bad, scary, bad guy, nigh unbeatable. In fact, they had to limit how many times they brought them into the show because you couldn't actually beat the Borg, who were supposed to be unbeatable. And the Star Trek series Voyager often catches a lot of flack for taking the teeth out of the Borg, saying you dehumanize, or you what's the word? You devillainized them. And my response to that is yes, they did, but understand how they did it, because they took the time to get to know the Borg. Things are only scary when you don't know about them. When you take the time to understand something and know how it works and see how it operates, it's not really that scary anymore. I can do that. I can handle this. We can go through this. There's so much of Daniel Jackson sitting in that briefing room just saying, look, there's so much of their society we don't understand. We're learning more about their society. The more we learn about this, the more we'll be able to handle that. Like he continues to go through that. And I think a lot of this episode really kind of revolved about, okay, well, we got to learn more about Goa'uld society. The idea that the Goa'uld actually have a society. Think about that. You mentioned like somewhere on a planet out there just has to be a planet full of Goa'uld that they're getting up and going to work.
Just doing their thing.
And they have a society. And then there is this government system of the system lords that are out doing whatever. Part of what led me to that was thinking about 7 of 9. And I started thinking about Hugh. If you remember, he's another Borg. And Jeff, it really comes down to the line that you quoted there a minute ago, where Jack says he'll never trust a Goa'uld. But then we meet Jolinar, who sacrifices himself to save Carter. Like at the end, they're both dead. And all of a sudden there's stuff happening and we don't know what's going on. And it's like there's two things going on. And, they're both going to die. They're both going to die. They're going to, oh, wait, Carter's back. And he sacrificed himself to save me. And I don't know, Jeff, at what point you started going, actually, this guy's telling the truth. Like he tries to bow up like he's a Goa'uld to try to like force them into letting him go. And then that doesn't work. And so now he's actually telling them like, okay, actually, here's who I am. And this is what I'm doing. He's still a Goa'uld though. Like he still kind of does it in that Goa'uldy way.
Yeah.
But he sacrifices himself, and we learn that these Tok'ra have the same goals as the people of Earth, to dismantle the system lord. She says to him, the system lord's time is at an end. This is, and you're like, when she said that to him, that's when I was like, okay, this dude's legit. I remember watching that for the first time going, okay, so this is for real. This is not just a Goa'uld trying to say something to get out of a bad situation, right? And again, again, not to over Star Trek this thing, I was thinking Kirk with the Klingons and stuff like that. When Jack said, "I'll never ever trust a Gould," you knew immediately he's going to have to trust a Gould.
Right.
He's going to live to eat those words. People have said that I have criticized the episodes before for bringing up a topic but then not discussing it. I don't know that that's a criticism as much as just a pointing it out and saying, can I really count that as an issue because it's not there? This one did not really explore that concept a lot. But really what we're talking about is racism. Jack was racist. He was prejudiced against everyone who's a Gould before he ever gets to know them. And what we learn is that even the Gould, even within the worst of the people, you still need to take the chance to get to know them. And I'm going to dip back into something I've talked about quite a bit on several other podcasts at this point. When you dehumanize people, when you de-individualize them and you group them in with a lump of people because of their skin color, their nationality, their socioeconomic status, their gender, their hair color, their favorite sports team, go ahead, take your pick. When you take away their individuality and you just call them that group, it's easy to hate them. When you take the time to get to know them, though, you find out something much different. Maybe you don't hate them. The show did not explore that. They did not discuss it. It didn't turn it over. It didn't look at it. It didn't do any of that stuff that you and I would maybe expect out of like a Star Trek show or something that would give this like a huge rating. But the thing is, it didn't have to. Not in this episode. Like they put it out there, I'll never, ever trust a Gould. And then instead of discussing it, it just showed us why Jack should trust a Gould. And the fact that not all Gould are the same. And it made that perfectly clear. And it just, it's so beautiful because it allowed the show to undo that. Because Jack said that right about in the midpoint of the show.
Right.
And then we saw the rest of the episode kind of unfold of going, yeah, Jack's going to have to eat those words. And I loved it. I loved that they did that. That to me really was the main piece out of all of it. If we can pull lessons out of this, I think it's a really strong message. Is it what the writer intended when he was writing? I think that's what he intended when he wrote that line. And I think there certainly was a lot of, like I said, this was a lot of world building, introducing us to some other concepts. But at the same time, you've got to face that particular obstacle. This is a 4 chevron episode to me. Might be a little high, maybe 3.5, but I'll go 4.
I like that. I like that quite a bit, actually. You know, it hits me how, as you were talking, I went back to, I think it was the Nox, when we met I think it was a Jaffa that was after Teal'c, right? And there was a whole thing, and somewhere the line came up of, I've never met a good Gould.
Teal'c said that. Teal'c said, I've never met a good Gould.
And in that moment, talking about like racism and we'll just say like unconscious bias, I just accepted at that point, Gould are the bad guys. Like, that's it. That's what it's gonna be. And then immediately in this, like it was the same point when Jolinar kept saying system lords, I'm like, they wouldn't be referencing these system lords if Jolinar was evil because we'd have to just know what that means. They're using this as part of the thing, so I think he's telling the truth. And so it is like, oh, there are some. And it wasn't until this moment when you were talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in the same place that Jack was. As a viewer, Gould are the bad guys, period, end of story. Oh, wait.
But to be fair though, Jeff, you were working based on the knowledge that you had at the moment. Jack has been working off the knowledge and the experience he's had up to this moment.
But let's look at that knowledge and experience. He's met what? 4 Gould?
Well, let's hear it. He's met Raw.
Mm-hmm.
He's met Hathor, Apophis, for sure. Skara, Chlorel. He has seen Sharae. I don't know that we could say that that Gould's name is Eminet, by the way.
Eminet, okay. Peanut Eminets.
He has seen other Gould, I think, but he certainly hasn't interacted and met them. He heard of Nirti. Nirti is the one that did all the stuff for Cassandra. And we didn't meet Nirti, but Nirti, the one, the place where he got really old, Brief Candle, whatever that. So there's that Gould. He didn't meet him, but saw those effects there.
So we'll say 6. Let's be very generous and say 8.
Okay.
He's had some interaction or thing with 8 Gould, which means that's what we've had as well.
Yeah.
I judged an entire race
On 8 people.
Who are clearly in like the military exploration, whatever arm of stuff. So imagine if I met, I don't know, just say 8 soldiers. And then I'm like we'll just say from country X. And those 8 soldiers were jerks. And I'm like, every Exian is the worst. I'll never trust them. They're horrible. Wow. Shame on me. And so I was railing on Jack a little bit earlier. That was a bad moment. I'm owning that I had that exact same moment.
But when you start getting to know them, and to go back to my earlier point, when you start getting to know them, you take the scary away. All of a sudden, those places where you thought one way get challenged. You go, oh man, I used to think this way, but maybe I can't think that way about those people anymore. Yeah, 4 chevrons. I think it's pretty there, and I love that it's with the show didn't have to preach it. It just did the story, and it came through the story.
Show, don't tell. They showed it.
So, Jeff, I got to rate this episode on a bunch of chevrons. You, my friend, however, get, I think, the more fun part where you get to rank it. So we are beginning our SG1 Season 2 ranking. And here's the deal. You might think this is the first time we've done this, but it's not. Because last week we actually had a double episode within the Serpent's Grasp and in the Serpent's Lair. I'm going to go ahead and forward that over to this episode as well. That was a double episode, so we'll leave it there in Season 1 where we left it, which I think was about midland of the deal.
I think it was like number 4. Mm-hmm.
It was number 4. So we'll bring this over. So that is currently our number 1 episode, is in the Serpent's Lair. You get to now rank this one. It's only 2, but still, where do you rank in the Line of Duty?
I was expecting the whole like, oh, it's our number 1 because it's all we have. You messed everything up for me. Now I have to critically think out of the blue.
That's why I didn't warn you ahead of time.
I will never trust a Brent Allen.
You shouldn't. They're awful. Every single one of them are awful. If their last name is Allen, it's an awful group of people.
You know, when I was a bad guy wrestler, that was my last name.
Allen?
This is JT Allen. Totally on brand for the Allen name.
Yeah.
This was a great episode. This did, like we said, it was world building. It was introducing concepts that were hinted at, adding a ton of dimension to the Gould. It was a really well done episode. Great acting, a fun story, showing growth. Really enjoyed it. Dude, in the Serpent's Lair, man, what an episode, right? I mean, I sang all of its praises last week, so I'm just going to kind of say that it's going to be a tough one to beat. It's going to be a tough combination to beat. And as much as I enjoyed in the Line of Duty, it's not going to be the one that beats it. It's our number 2. In the Line of Duty is our number 2.
Ah! Oh my
Middle
gosh.
school, right? Basically 13. Sorry. You swing at the ones that are right in the strike zone. You got to do it.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's actually not true. I could have really kept my mouth shut and everything would have been fine. But
all right, Jeff, that's going to do it for In the Line of Duty. Next week, we're watching an episode called Prisoners. You want to take a stab at it?
SG1's going to be on a planet. I'm going to go ahead and PRX 251. They're going to be on planet PRX 251, and they're going to be taken prisoner. And it's going to be an episode about them trying to escape. In fact, I think when they're taken prisoner,
are we gonna open with them already having been captured and being prisoners, like dropping down the chute?
No.
Okay.
Nope. We're gonna. It's just going to be we're going to follow the narrative arc of the whole thing. Whomever captures them, though, is going to be a little bit smarter than the SGC, and they're going to put them in separate cells. So they're going to have to figure out how to communicate, how to work together, things like that. In fact, I'm going to say that this is going to be a great one to look at through a leadership lens.
Well, Jeff, you are a good guesser. And we'll see you next time right here on Stargate SG1 for the first time. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode here. Hey, wherever you are, please be sure that you like, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review, whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. Please go over and click that button, leave a rating and review. We would really appreciate it. It helps get the word out. And if you know somebody out there who loves Stargate SG1, or maybe somebody who, like my friend Jeff over there, needs to experience the show for the very first time, please introduce them to the show. We would love to have them along for the ride. So, guys, until next time, we're going to be back. We're going to see.
Hey, Brent.
Yes, Jeff.
The days for the first time system lords are numbered.
Crying out loud.